John Bowlby's pioneering work on attachment theory revolutionized our understanding of human relationships. His courageous challenge to traditional psychoanalytic thought led to groundbreaking insights that transformed the field of psychology. As we delve into the extraordinary life and legacy of this brilliant mind, get ready to uncover the profound impact one man had on our comprehension of love, loss, and the unbreakable bonds that shape us. Born into a wealthy family in London, England in 1907, Bowlby's early life was marked by a sense of privilege and detachment. His father, Anthony Bowlby, was a surgeon who served as a member of the royal household, attending to the medical needs of the British royal family. This position brought with it a certain level of prestige, but also meant that John's father was often absent from home, leaving his mother, Maria Bowlby, to care for their 4 children. As a child, John was raised by a nanny, as was common among upper-class families at the time. This experience would later influence his thoughts on the importance of early relationships and attachment. In fact, Bowlby's own childhood was marked by a sense of isolation, with limited interaction with his parents. He once recalled being sent to boarding school at the age of 7, an experience that left him feeling lonely and disconnected from his family. Despite these challenges, Bowlby's educational journey was nothing short of remarkable. He attended Trinity College in Cambridge, where he studied psychology and preclinical medicine. However, it was his experiences working with maladjusted children at the Child Guidance Clinic in London that truly sparked his interest in understanding human relationships. Under the mentorship of Dr. Evan Durbin, a psychologist who emphasized the importance of environment in shaping behavior, Bowlby began to develop his own theories about the role of early attachment in human development. He was particularly drawn to the idea that a child's relationship with their primary caregiver was crucial in forming their sense of security and self-worth. This concept would eventually become a cornerstone of his attachment theory. As Bowlby delved deeper into his research, he became increasingly influenced by the work of ethologists like Konrad Lorenz, who studied animal behavior. He saw parallels between the ways in which animals form attachments to their caregivers and the ways in which human children do the same. This interdisciplinary approach would become a hallmark of Bowlby's work as he sought to understand human behavior through the lens of both psychology and biology. One of the most significant experiences that shaped Bowlby's thinking was his work with a young boy named Tommy, who had been referred to the Child Guidance Clinic due to his aggressive behavior. Through his interactions with Tommy, Bowlby observed that the child's difficult behavior was closely tied to his insecure attachment to his mother. This case study would later become a pivotal example in Bowlby's development of attachment theory, highlighting the importance of early relationships in shaping human behavior. As Bowlby's work with Tommy and other children at the Child Guidance Clinic continued, he began to notice a pattern of behavior that would become a cornerstone of his attachment theory: the way in which children responded to separation from their primary caregivers. He observed that some children exhibited intense distress when separated from their mothers, while others seemed almost indifferent. This variation in response sparked Bowlby's curiosity, and he set out to understand the underlying factors that contributed to these different attachment styles. One of the key influences on Bowlby's thinking during this period was his relationship with psychologist James Robertson, who had been conducting research on the effects of hospitalization on young children. Robertson's work showed that children who were separated from their parents during hospitalization often exhibited severe distress and anxiety, which could have long-lasting effects on their emotional development. Bowlby saw parallels between Robertson's findings and his own observations at the Child Guidance Clinic, and he began to develop a theory about the importance of early attachment experiences in shaping human behavior. Bowlby's collaboration with Robertson also led him to consider the role of environment in shaping attachment styles. He realized that children who experienced consistent and responsive care from their caregivers were more likely to develop secure attachment patterns, while those who faced neglect or inconsistent care were more likely to develop insecure attachments. This insight would later become a central tenet of his attachment theory, as he emphasized the importance of early relationships in shaping our expectations about love, intimacy, and security. As Bowlby delved deeper into his research, He also began to explore the evolutionary roots of human attachment. He drew on the work of ethologists like Nico Tinbergen, who had studied the behavior of animals in their natural habitats. Bowlby saw that many animal species exhibited attachment behaviors similar to those he had observed in humans, and he began to theorize that attachment was an evolved mechanism that helped young organisms survive and thrive in their environments. As Bowlby's work on attachment theory continued to evolve, he became increasingly fascinated by the ways in which early experiences of separation and loss could shape an individual's attachment style. He began to explore the concept of internal working models, which referred to the mental representations that individuals develop about themselves, their caregivers, and their relationships. These internal working models, Bowlby believed, were formed through repeated interactions with primary caregivers and played a critical role in shaping an individual's expectations and behaviors in future relationships. One of the most significant influences on Bowlby's thinking during this period was his relationship with psychologist Mary Ainsworth, who had been conducting research on attachment patterns in young children. Ainsworth's work built upon Bowlby's earlier findings and introduced the concept of the strange situation, a laboratory procedure designed to assess attachment security in young children. The strange situation involved observing a child's behavior when they were left alone with a stranger and then reunited with their primary caregiver. Ainsworth's research showed that children who exhibited secure attachment patterns tended to explore their environment freely, were distressed by separation from their caregiver, and were easily comforted upon reunion. Bowlby was deeply impressed by Ainsworth's work and saw it as a powerful validation of his own theories about attachment. He began to collaborate with Ainsworth, and together they developed a comprehensive framework for understanding attachment patterns in children. This framework, which included the concepts of secure, anxious, and avoidant attachment, would become a cornerstone of attachment theory and have a profound impact on the field of developmental psychology. As Bowlby's work with Ainsworth progressed, he also began to explore the implications of attachment theory for adult relationships. He believed that the internal working models developed in early childhood continued to influence an individual's attachment style throughout their life, shaping their expectations and behaviors in romantic relationships, friendships, and even therapeutic relationships. This idea, which Bowlby termed attachment across the lifespan, suggested that attachment was not solely a phenomenon of early childhood, but rather a dynamic process that evolved and changed over time. Bowlby's work on adult attachment was influenced by his own experiences as a therapist, particularly his work with patients who had experienced trauma or loss in their early lives. He observed that these individuals often struggled with intense emotional dysregulation, difficulty forming intimate relationships, and a deep-seated fear of abandonment. Bowlby believed that these struggles were rooted in the individual's early attachment experiences, and that a therapeutic approach that took into account the patient's attachment history could be particularly effective in promoting healing and growth. He began to explore the concept of disorganized attachment, which referred to a pattern of attachment characterized by a lack of coherence and consistency in an individual's behavior and emotional regulation. Bowlby believed that disorganized attachment was often the result of traumatic or neglectful experiences in early childhood, and that it could have a profound impact on an individual's ability to form and maintain healthy relationships throughout their life. One of the key case studies that informed Bowlby's work on disorganized attachment was that of a young girl named Lisa, who had been referred to his clinic due to her severe emotional dysregulation and difficulty forming attachments with her caregivers. Through his work with Lisa, Bowlby observed that she exhibited a unique pattern of behavior, characterized by intense anxiety and aggression in response to separation from her caregivers, followed by a complete lack of emotional responsiveness upon reunion. This pattern of behavior was unlike anything Bowlby had seen before, and it led him to realize that some individuals may develop attachment strategies that are not necessarily secure, anxious, or avoidant, but rather disorganized and lacking in coherence. Bowlby's work on disorganized attachment was heavily influenced by his relationship with psychologist Carlin Lyons Ruth, who had been conducting research on the neural mechanisms underlying attachment and emotional regulation. Together, they developed a framework for understanding the ways in which early experiences of trauma and neglect could shape an individual's attachment style, and how this could impact their ability to form and maintain healthy relationships throughout their life. This work built upon Bowlby's earlier theories about internal working models, and highlighted the importance of considering the role of trauma and adversity in shaping an individual's attachment history. As Bowlby delved deeper into his research on disorganized attachment, he also began to explore the implications of this concept for therapeutic practice. He believed that traditional therapeutic approaches, which often focused on promoting emotional regulation and security, may not be effective for individuals with disorganized attachment patterns. Instead, Bowlby argued that therapists needed to develop new approaches that took into account the complex and often contradictory nature of disorganized attachment. This might involve using techniques such as metaphorical dialogue or narrative exposure, which allowed individuals to process and integrate their traumatic experiences in a safe and supportive environment. Bowlby's work on disorganized attachment was not without controversy, however. Some critics argued that his theories were too broad and that they failed to account for the complexity and diversity of human experience. Others argued that Bowlby's emphasis on the role of trauma and neglect in shaping attachment patterns was overly simplistic, and that it neglected the importance of other factors such as genetics and social environment. Despite these criticisms, however, Bowlby's work on disorganized attachment remains a highly influential and important contribution to the field of psychology and continues to inform therapeutic practice and research to this day. Through his work on disorganized attachment, Bowlby also became increasingly interested in the ways in which cultural and societal factors can shape an individual's attachment style. He began to explore the concept of cultural narratives, which referred to the shared stories and beliefs that shape our understanding of ourselves and our place in the world. Bowlby believed that these cultural narratives could have a profound impact on an individual's attachment history, and that they could influence the way in which we experience and express emotions such as love, anger, and fear. This interest in cultural narratives led Bowlby to collaborate with anthropologists and sociologists who were also exploring the ways in which culture shapes human behavior and emotional experience. One of the key collaborations that emerged from this work was with anthropologist Robert Levy, who had been conducting research on the cultural construction of emotions in different societies. Together, they developed a framework for understanding the ways in which cultural narratives shape our emotional experiences, and how this can impact our attachment styles. This work highlighted the importance of considering the role of culture in shaping human behavior, and demonstrated that attachment is not solely an individual phenomenon, but rather a complex interplay between biological, psychological, and social factors. As Bowlby's work on disorganized attachment continued to evolve, he became increasingly interested in the neural mechanisms underlying this complex phenomenon. He began to collaborate with neuroscientists, such as Alan Score, who were exploring the role of early experiences in shaping the development of the brain. Together, they developed a framework for understanding how adverse childhood experiences could impact the structure and function of the brain, leading to difficulties in emotional regulation and attachment. One of the key concepts that emerged from this work was the idea of neuroplasticity, or the brain's ability to reorganize itself in response to experience. Bowlby and his colleagues believed that early experiences, particularly those related to attachment, could shape the development of the brain's stress response system, leading to either resilience or vulnerability to later adversity. This idea was supported by studies of children who had experienced trauma, which showed that their brains exhibited altered patterns of activity in regions involved in emotional regulation, such as the amygdala and prefrontal cortex. Bowlby's work on neuroplasticity also led him to explore the role of mindfulness and meditation in promoting positive change in the brain. He believed that these practices could help individuals develop greater awareness of their thoughts and emotions, allowing them to better regulate their stress response and cultivate more secure attachment patterns. This interest in mindfulness was influenced by his relationships with contemporaries, such as John Kabat-Zinn, who was developing mindfulness-based interventions for a range of psychological disorders. As Bowlby's ideas about disorganized attachment and neuroplasticity gained traction, he began to receive criticism from some quarters. Some researchers argued that his theories were too focused on the role of early experiences and neglected the importance of later factors such as social environment and genetics. Others criticized his use of terms like disorganized attachment, which they believed was too broad and didn't adequately capture the complexity of human experience. Despite these criticisms, Bowlby's work continued to influence a wide range of fields, from psychology and psychiatry to education and social work. His ideas about the importance of early experiences and the need for sensitive, responsive caregiving helped shape policies and practices aimed at promoting healthy development in children. For example, his work informed the development of programs such as Head Start, which provided early childhood education and support services to low-income families. Bowlby's relationships with contemporaries like Donald Winnicott and Margaret Mahler also played an important role in shaping his ideas about attachment and development. These researchers were exploring similar themes, such as the importance of early experiences and the role of the caregiver in promoting healthy development. Together, they formed a community of scholars who were helping to lay the foundations for modern attachment theory. As Bowlby looked back on his career, he was struck by the ways in which his own experiences had shaped his ideas about attachment and development. His difficult childhood, marked by separation from his parents and struggles with emotional regulation, had given him a deep understanding of the importance of early relationships in shaping later outcomes. This personal experience had informed his work and had driven him to develop theories and interventions that could help others who had faced similar challenges. John Bowlby's pioneering work on attachment theory has left an indelible mark on the field of psychology, forever changing our understanding of human development and relationships. His tireless efforts to promote sensitive, responsive caregiving have inspired generations of researchers, clinicians, and parents, shaping policies and practices that prioritize the well-being of children and families. As Bowlby himself once said, "The provision of a secure base from which the child can explore and to which he can return when distressed or in need of comfort is an essential component of good parenting." These words encapsulate the essence of his life's work, a testament to the enduring power of love, care, and connection. That's all for today's Psych with Sigmund. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, may your ego find balance between pleasure and reality.